Can't see your voice. I want to make sure I'm right. That doesn't have a order, does it? Our time to break the silence. Okay. Thank you. I'll give it right back. Good evening. I'm going to try that one more time. Good evening. Oh, come on, y'all can do better than that. One more time, all right? Good evening. My name is Joshua. I'm the pastor here at Monroe Street UMC. I just want to take a brief moment to say welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad so many of you have showed up. This is an important event. It is our time to break the silence, especially with so much going on in our world today. Right? Now, logistically, there are 3 bathrooms that can be used. If you go through those double doors, on your left will be a handicap bathroom immediately. Then if you go down the stairs on either side, the men's will be on the left down the stairs and the women's will be on the right down the stairs. If you need help, I'm pretty easy to spot, so come get me, and I will help you. Once again, I'm so glad you're here, and all of you are always invited to come worship with us on Sunday. But today is a special event in which we take the time to remember what Martin Luther King Jr. taught us and to live it out today. Thank you for coming.
My name is Maya Angelou. I was born on April 4th, 1920 in St. Louis, Missouri. I am an African-American female, famous for becoming an influential voice of our time. I am a poet, educator, producer, and a civil rights activist. I died on May 28th, 2014.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Lee Crumpler. I was born in 1831 in Delaware. I grew up with my aunt, took care of sick people. Watching my aunt help others made me want to help people too. I am an African American female, famous for being the first black woman in the United States to become a doctor. I am not alive today.
I took a trip to San Francisco. All my friends said we would drive. It didn't work, so we left for Fresno. It was such a scenic drive. We pull over to watch the children in the park. We would only worry for them after dark. But I'm still looking for my own version of America. One without the gun, where the flag can freely fly. No bombs in the sky, only fireworks when you and I collide. It's just a dream I had in mind. It's just a dream I had in mind. It's just a dream I had in mind. Thank you.
Hello. Today I'll recite a poem that was written by Rifat Al-Arir. Rifat Al-Arir is a Palestinian writer, poet, and professor of English literature and creative writing. He's the founder of the project We Are Not Numbers, which shares the stories of Palestinians living under occupation to the world. He authored 2 books, Gaza Unsilenced and Gaza Writes Back. He lived under occupation his entire life, and telling Palestinian stories was his passion and his only crime, as he was targeted and assassinated with a number of his family members by an airstrike on their residence in December of 2023. This poem was the last poem Rifat wrote before his assassination. It's called If I Must Die. If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale.
delivered by MLK long ago. Reverberates so deep down still into my soul. A message clear as if it's like for this year. It's sad to say not much has changed, chaos is near. They say all's fair in love and war, but Vietnam brought misery to many moms and sirs and ma'ams. The cost of life uncountable, they're gone, you see. Powers that be don't comprehend, oh mercy me.
Bringing the speakers to stand up. Speakers. Please join me in singing Lift Every Voice.
Of Drunk with the wine of the world, we forget and leave. Shall we leave thy land? May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Good afternoon. I am Bernita Lewis Taylor, and this is Adelia Perkins. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke out boldly against the travesties of his time. He is quoted as saying, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Even though it is no longer 1967, there are still travesties happening today that need to be spoken out against. Today, the MLK Organizing Committee has chosen to highlight a few of these topics that we will not be silent about. I will not be silent about the dismantling of the Department of Education when this will adversely affect the strength and well-being of our children, their future, and the future of generations to come.
I will not be silent while watching as young people who look like me kill themselves over things that are insignificant and fleeting in the name of unity.
I will not be silent about the things that are happening, the devastation and horrific things that are happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, Palestine.
I will not be silent and ignore the fact that mental health is an international crisis that pulls down our youth and suppresses our adults.
I will not be silent and watch as equity, diversity, and inclusion is gotten rid of. They have helped too many people make differences in their lives today. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are now ready to begin the reading portion of Dr. King's speech. We are grateful to have 50 organizations represented for this program. The MLK Organizing Committee appreciates all of the volunteers, and we also appreciate our audience. In addition to our guest speakers, we have chosen some verses for our audience to read also. You will find these verses beginning on page 2 of your program, as well as on the big screen behind our featured readers. Leading the audience participation portion is Mr. Oscar Shahir. In an effort to be in unison, we are going to ask that our audience follow the lead of Mr. Shahir. When you see him stand up, it will indicate that you are about to read. When he raises his hands, we ask that for all those who are able, please stand and read accordingly from your program or from the screen. When he motions to sit down, we are asking that you do so, and the next featured reader will come forth. This will happen several times, and we thank you in advance for your participation. Finally, the MLK Organizing Committee has selected a motto this year based on one of the lines from Dr. King's speech. You will say it after each verse of the audience participation portion. It will be said like this: I will not be silent. 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 Say it with me this time. I will not be silent. I will not be silent. Excellent. Now, without further ado, we are going to bring you Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, Beyond Vietnam. It's time to break silence. Thank you.
I come to this magnificent house of worship tonight because my conscience leaves me no other choice. I join you in this meeting because I am in deepest agreement with the aims and works of the organization which has brought us together, clergy and laymen concerned about Vietnam. The recent statements of your executive committee are the sentiments of my own heart, and I found myself in full accord when I read its opening lines. A time will come when silence is betrayal, and that time has come for us now in relation to Vietnam.
The truth of these words is beyond doubt, but the mission to which they call us is a most difficult one. Even when pressed by the demands of inner truth, men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in the time of war. Nor does the human spirit move without great difficulty against all the apathy of conformist thought within one's own bosom and in the surrounding world. Moreover, when the issues at hand seem as perplexing as they often do in the case of this dreadful conflict, we are always on the verge of being mesmerized by uncertainty, but we must move on.
بعضنا الذي بدأ أن يكسر صمت الليل وجد أن الدعوة للكلام هي دائما نداء للعذاب ولكن يجب أن نتكلم. And some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony, but we must speak. We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak.
And we must rejoice as well, for surely this is the first time in our nation's history that a significant number of religious leaders have chosen to move beyond the prophesizing of smooth patriotism to the high ground of a firm dissent based upon the mandates of conscience that the reading of history. Perhaps it is a new spirit rising among us. If it is, let us trace its movements and pray that our own inner being may be sensitive to its guidance, for we are deeply in need of a new way beyond the darkness that seems so close around us.
Over the past 2 years, as I have moved to break the betrayal of my own silences and to speak from the burnings of my own heart, I have called for radical departures from the destruction of Vietnam. Many persons have questioned me about the wisdom of my path. At the heart of their comment or concerns, this query has often loomed large and wild. Quote, "Why are you speaking about the war, Dr. King? Why are you joining the voices of dissent? Peace and civil rights don't mix, they say. Aren't you hurting the cause of your people?" they ask.
And when I hear them, though I often understand the source of their concern, I am nevertheless greatly saddened. For such questions mean that the inquirers have not really known me, my commitment, or my calling. Indeed, their questions suggest that they do not know the world in which they live. In the light of such tragic misunderstanding, I deem it of signal importance to try to state clearly, and I trust concisely, why I believe that the path from Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, the church in Montgomery, Alabama, where I began my pastorate, leads clearly to this sanctuary tonight.
I come to this platform tonight to make a passionate plea to my beloved nation. This speech is not addressed to Hanoi or to the National Liberation Front. It is not addressed to China or to Russia, nor is it an attempt to overlook the ambiguity of the total situation and the need for a collective solution to the tragedy of Vietnam. Neither is it an attempt to make North Vietnam or the National Liberation Front paragons of virtue, nor to overlook the role that they must play in a successful resolution of the problem. While they both may have justifiable reasons to be suspicious of the good faith of the United States,
and history give eloquent testimony to the fact that conflicts are never resolved without trustful give and take on both sides. I will not be silent. I will not be silent.
Tonight, however, I wish not to speak with Hanoi or the National Liberation Front, but rather to my fellow Americans. There is at the outset a very obvious and most facile connection between the war in Vietnam and the struggle I and others have been waging in America. A few years ago, there was a shining moment in that struggle. It seemed as if there was real promise of hope for the poor, both black and white. Through poverty program, they were experiments, hopes, new beginnings.
Then came the buildup in Vietnam, and I watched this program broken and eviscerated as if it were some idle political plaything of a society gone mad on war. And I knew that America would never invest the necessary funds or energy in rehabilitation of its poor so long as adventures like Vietnam continued to draw men and skills and money like some demonic destructive suction tube. So I was increasingly compelled to see the war as an enemy of the poor and to attack it as such.
Perhaps a more tragic recognition of reality took place when it became clear to me that the war was doing far more than devastating the hopes of the poor at home. It was sending their sons and their brothers and their husbands to fight and die in extraordinary high proportions relative to the rest of the population. We were taking the black young men who had been crippled by our society and sending them 8,000 miles away to guarantee the liberties in Southeast Asia, which they had not found in Southwest Georgia and East Harlem. And so, we have repeatedly faced with the cruel irony of watching Negro and white boys on TV screens as they kill and die together for a nation that has been unable to seat them together in the same schools. And so, we watch them in brutal solidarity burning the huts of a poor village. But we realize that they will hardly live in the same block in Chicago, Illinois. And may I take the liberty, the same block in Toledo, Ohio. I will not be silent.
I could not be silent in the face of such cruel manipulation of the poor. I will not be silent. I will not be silent.
Thank you. My third reason moves to an even deeper level of awareness, for it grows out of my experience in the ghettos of the North over the last 3 years, especially the last 3 summers. As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I have tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action.
But they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They ask if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problems, to bring out the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. For the sake of those boys, for the sake of this government, for the sake of hundreds of thousands trembling under violence, I cannot be silent.
For those who ask the question, aren't you a civil rights leader and thereby mean to exclude me from the movement for peace? I have this further answer. In 1957, when a group of us formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we chose as our motto to save the soul of America. We were convinced that we could not limit our vision to certain rights for black people, but instead affirmed the conviction that America could never be free or saved from itself until the descendants of its slaves were loosened completely from the shackles they still wear. In a way, we were agreeing with Langston Hughes, that black bard of Harlem who had written, "Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet I swear by this oath, America will be."
Now it should be incandescently clear that no one who has any concern for the integrity and life of America today can ignore the present war. If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam. It can never be saved so long as it destroys the deepest hopes of men the world over. So it is that those of us who are yet determined that America will be are led down the path of protest and dissent, working for the health of our land.
As if the weight of such a commitment to the life and health of America were not enough,
Another burden of responsibility was placed upon me in 1954. And I cannot forget that the Nobel Peace Prize was also a commission to work harder than I had ever worked before for the brotherhood of man. This is a calling that takes me beyond national allegiances. But even if it were not present, I would yet have to live with the meaning of my commitment to the ministry of Jesus Christ.
To me, the relationship of this ministry to the making of peace is so obvious that I sometimes marvel at those who ask me why I'm speaking against the war. Could it be that they do not know that the good news was meant for all men, for communists and capitalists, for their children and ours, for black and for white, for revolutionary and conservative? Have they forgotten that my ministry is in obedience to the one who loved his enemies so fully that he died for them? What then can I say to the Viet Cong or to Castro or to Mao as a faithful minister of this one? Can I threaten them with death, or must I not share with them my life?
And finally, as I try to explain for you and for myself the road that leads from Montgomery to this place, I would have offered all that was most valid if I simply said that I must be true to my convictions that I share with all men, the calling to be a son of the living God. Beyond the calling of race or nation or creed is this vocation of sonship and brotherhood. And because I believe that the Father is deeply concerned, especially for his suffering and helpless and outcast children, I come tonight to speak for them. This I believe to be the privilege and the burden of all of us who deem ourselves bound by allegiances and loyalties which are broader and deeper than nationalism and which go beyond our nation's self-defined goals and positions.
We are called to speak for the weak, for the voiceless, for the victims of our nation, and for those it calls enemy. For no document from human hands can make these humans any less our brothers. I will not be silent. I will not be silent.
And as I ponder the madness of Vietnam and search within myself for ways to understand and respond in compassion, my mind goes constantly to the people of that peninsula. I speak not now of the soldiers of each side, not of the ideologies of the Liberation Front, not of the junta in Saigon, but simply of the people who have been living under the curse of war for almost 3 continuous decades now. I think of them too because it is clear to me that there will be no meaningful solution there until some attempt is made to know them and to hear their broken cries.
They must see Americans as strange liberators. The Vietnamese people proclaimed their own independence in 1945 after a combined French and Japanese occupation. and before the Communist Revolution in China. They were led by Ho Chi Minh. Even though they quoted the American Declaration of Independence in their own document of freedom, we refused to recognize them. Instead, we decided to support France in its reconquest of her former colony. Our government felt then that the Vietnamese people were not ready for independence, and we again fell victim to the deadly Western arrogance that has poisoned the international atmosphere for so long. With that tragic decision, we rejected a revolutionary government seeking self-determination and a government that had been established not by China, for whom the Vietnamese have no great love, but by clearly indigenous forces that included some communists. For the peasants, this new government meant real land reform, one of the most important needs in their lives.
For 9 years following 1945, we denied the people of Vietnam the right of independence. For 9 years, we vigorously supported the French in their abortive effort to recolonize Vietnam. Before the end of the war, we were meeting 80% of the French war costs. Even before the French were defeated at Dien Bien Phu, they began to despair of their reckless action, but we did not. We encouraged them with our huge financial and military supplies to continue the war even if they had lost the will. Soon we would be paying almost the full cost of this tragic attempt at recolonization.
After the French were defeated, it looked as if independence and land reform would come again through the Geneva Agreement. But instead, there came the United States, determined that Ho should not unify the temporarily divided nation, and the peasants watched again as we supported one of the most vicious modern dictators, our chosen man, Premier Diem. The peasants watched and cringed as Diem ruthlessly rooted out all opposition, supported their extortionist landlords, and refused even to discuss reunification with the North. The peasants watched as all this was presided over by United States influence and then by increasing numbers of United States troops who came to quell the insurgency that Diem's methods had aroused. When Diem was overthrown, they may have been happy, but the long line of military dictators seemed to offer no real change, especially in terms of their need for land and peace.
The only change came from America. As we increased our troops, commitments in support of governments which were singularly corrupt, inept, and without popular support, all while the people read our leaflets and receive the regular promises of peace and democracy and land reform. Now they languish under our bombs and consider us, not their fellow Vietnamese, the real enemy. They move sadly and empathetically as we herd them off the lands of their fathers into concentration camps where minimal social needs are rarely met. They know they must move on or be destroyed by our bombs.
So they go, primarily women and children and the aged. They watch as we poison their water, as we kill 1 million acres of their crops. They must weep as the bulldozers roar through their areas, preparing to destroy the precious trees.
They wander into the hospitals with at least 20 casualties from American firepower for 1 Viet Cong inflicted injury. So far, we may have killed 1 million of them, mostly children. They wander into the towns to see thousands of children. homeless, without clothes, running in packs on the streets like animals. They see the children degraded by our soldiers. They see the children selling their sisters to our soldiers and soliciting for their mothers.
What do the peasants think as we ally ourselves with the landlords? That's okay. And as we refuse to put any action into many words concerning land reform, what do they think as we test out our latest weapon on them, just as the Germans tested out new medicine and new tortures in the concentration camps of Europe? Where are the roots of the independent Vietnam we're claimed to be building? It is among the voiceless ones. It is among these voiceless ones. We have destroyed their two most cherished institutions, the family and the village. We have destroyed their land and their crops.
We have cooperated in the crushing of the nation's only non-communist revolutionary political force, the Unified Buddhist Church. We have supported the enemies of the peasants of Saigon. We have corrupted their women and children and killed their men. Now there is little left to build on, save bitterness. Soon, the only solid physical foundations remaining will be found at our military bases and in the concrete of the concentration camps we call fortified hamlets. The peasants may well wonder if we plan to build our new Vietnam on such grounds as these.
We blame them for such thoughts. We must speak for them and raise the questions they cannot raise. These too are our brothers. I will not be silent. I will not be silent.
Perhaps a more difficult but no less necessary task is to speak for those who have been designated as our enemies. What of the National Liberation Front, that strangely anonymous group we call VC, or communists? What must they think of the United States of America when they realize that we permitted the repression and cruelty of DM, which helped to bring them into being as a resistance group in the South? What do they think of our condoning the violence which led to their own taking up of arms? How can they believe in our integrity when now we speak of aggression from the North as if there were nothing more essential to the war?
How can they trust us when now we charge them with violence after the murderous reign of Diem, and charge them with violence while we pour every new weapon of death into their land? Surely we must understand their feelings, even if we do not condone their actions. Surely we must see that the men we supported pressed them to their violence. Surely we must see that our own computerized plans of destruction simply dwarf their greatest acts.
How do they judge us when our officials know that their membership is less than 25% communist, and yet insist on giving them the blanket name? What must they be thinking when they know that we are aware of their control of major sections of Vietnam, and yet we appear ready to allow national elections in which this highly organized political parallel government will not have a part? They ask how we can speak of free elections when the Saigon press is censored and controlled by the military junta.
And they are surely right to wonder
what kind of new government we plan to help form without them. The only party in real touch with the peasants. They question our political goals, and they deny the reality of a peace settlement from which they will be excluded. Their questions are frighteningly relevant. Is our nation planning to build on political myth again, and then shore it up upon the power of new violence?
Here is the true meaning and value of compassion and nonviolence when it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear his questions, to know his assessment of ourselves. For from his view, we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition, and if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers who are called the opposition. I will not be silent. I will not be silent.
So too with Hanoi in the north, where our bombs now pummel the land and our mines endanger the waterways, we are met with a deep but understandable mistrust. To speak for them is to explain this lack of confidence in Western words, and especially their distrust of America's intentions now. In Hanoi are the men who led the nation to independence against the Japanese and the French, the men who sought membership in the French Commonwealth and were betrayed by the weakness of Paris and the willfulness of colonial armies. It was they who led a second struggle against the French domination at tremendous cost, and they were persuaded to give up the land they controlled between the 13th and 17th parallel as temporary measures at Geneva.
After 1954, they watched us conspire with Diem to prevent elections which could have surely brought Ho Chi Minh to power over united Vietnam, and they realized they had been betrayed again. When we ask why they do not leap to negotiate, these things must be remembered. Also, it must be clear that the leaders of Hanoi considered the presence of American troops in support of the Diem regime to have been the initial military breach of the Geneva Agreement concerning foreign troops. They remind us that they did not begin to send troops in large numbers and even supplies into the South until American forces had moved into the tens of thousands.
Hanoi remembers how our leaders refused to tell us the truth about the earlier North Vietnamese overtures for peace, how the president claimed that none existed when they had clearly been made. Ho Chi Minh has watched as America has spoken of peace and built up its forces, and now he has surely heard the increasing international rumors of American plans for an invasion of the North.